Okay, so we're going to enter the plant from the left-hand side of the map. This is part of the raw warehouse. We're going to go through this little passageway here. This wall on the left is pretty high, but the stuff that's on the right doesn't really need to be seen. As we come around here, we see a little bit of a layup cell. We do need to be able to see some of the activities that go on there. When we get up here to the next intersection or so, we'll be able to kind of see what's going on in that area and what we might want to see and avoid. But we would want to be able to see the activities of those people going on. Now we're into what we call the mill, the face frame area here straight ahead of us, and to the right we would want to be able to see some of the activity that goes on in there. So something that can get over the top of those things that are between that and the raw warehouse would be interesting. Notice these big panels or tables that are on the right. Those are a little bit of a barrier to being able to see what goes on in there. There's two of these big build tables. We're gonna come up here and make a left. We're entering the NBC area. These machines that are straight ahead of us are pretty interesting, pretty important. It would be good to be able to see, there's 4 of them, you can see on the map. It'd be good to be able to see what's going on in that area. When we take a left here, we're going to be walking by the cart area, right about there, where they store the carts or put the carts that they're going to load materials onto. That's a pretty high interest, or an area of pretty high interest, to be able to see how the carts are handled. There's a lot of optimization that goes on how many carts do we need to stage at any one time. So it's good to be able to see the movement of those. There's not a whole lot of safety concerns on them. The machines are pretty self-sufficient, but being able to see in a overview manner can be pretty important. Straight ahead of us is another cell. We'll come back by that in a little while, but you can see there's some tall things that, at least at my eye level, prevent me from seeing into there. Do a little pirouette here and head down this pathway. Fair amount of activity here on the right, and we can't really see what's going on the left. We're gonna make a right turn up here in a little ways. This piece of equipment on the right could be interesting to watch, but not critical. Now we're going to head across the plant into what we call the East Mill. This big green wall on the left is the finish room. There's going to be some future work done on that. We don't know if the wall's coming down or if we're going to need to put something inside there yet. So right now we can't put anything in there. We'll take a brief look at inside there in just a little while. This is a high traffic area, so being able to see what goes on here could be interesting. A lot of carts here on the right. That's part of that movement and activity that we'd want to monitor, but most of those are going away. This big project of the flat line is going to replace the finishing system that's inside the big green box. So we'll stop here and take a little bit of a pirouette again, see what the environment looks like. A lot of stuff hanging from the ceiling. Now this big piece of equipment right there, it's called the paternoster, the thing with the red corners on it. That piece of equipment will be going away. It should be gone within a year. On the right is what we call the East Mill. It'll need decent coverage, but it's not really critical coverage. Up here on the left where the construction fencing is where we are putting the new flatline piece of equipment. We're going to have a number of cameras on there in that area. That's kind of what started this whole need for cameras. Pretty clear ceiling, not a lot of dust collection, not a lot of stuff in the way. So it should be a pretty easy thing to do. On this piece of equipment that is going in this area here to the left of us, we'll have what they're calling a halo. It's kind of a gantry over the top of the whole thing. I think it's over the whole thing, that we'll be able to mount cameras to, or we can hang cameras from the ceiling. Either way, these things on the pallet here is, I think, 3 of 11 containers worth of this piece of equipment, and it is going to cover the majority of this area that we are in. This is obviously a pretty open area. That big tube on the upper left is a HVAC sock. It inflates and deflates, so we'll need to try to avoid that a little bit. Cut across here, make another little pirouette of the area. And head through. These dock doors are not used for much anymore. They store some trucks at them and have some cardboard and things in them for this packaging equipment here. This is the back end of the paternoster equipment that's here to the left of us that's going to be going away. And then this area is packaging. We're not 100% sure what we're going to do with there, but as you can see, the paternoster would block camera view of the flat line. We call this the transition area. I'm wondering if we want to have a camera in here. I need to check on that, see what their thoughts are. It's kind of difficult to get into with networking, so we probably won't. Straight ahead is kind of a paint kitchen area, not a lot of activity there. This is our main loading dock. These first 2 doors don't get used a lot because they kind of conflict with the ones that were in the other area. We would like to be able to see the activity, the loading activity that goes on amongst the people that are loading the trucks, as well as seeing, slightly into the trucks, not all the way into the nose, not even halfway. Just, did they fill that truck to the door? Is there 15 feet behind it? Something like that. And we'll come up here and we'll do another little pirouette of the finished goods area, or the main finished goods area. You can see it's pretty low height stack and can be covered pretty well with probably 360 camera or so. This is an additional warehouse. It typically is about this level of stock. We do load from these doors, so we'll want to be able to see, like the other doors, we'll want to see into those. But it doesn't usually get stacked any higher than this. There's not a huge amount of activity. It is really just the loaders. So I think we could cover this area fairly simply. I think originally we were looking at having a couple of 360 cameras in there. We'll come up here and take a left turn and head kind of towards the main aisle again. We'll stop up here and take a look at what the finished goods area looks like from a little different perspective or a different angle. We're kind of looking back. You can see the dock doors back there in the background. And then here on the right, we are beginning to hit the end of the assembly line. The assembly line is a particular area of interest. This is where we do have our current trial camera hanging. I'll point that out in a moment so that you can kind of see what it looks like and have a frame of reference for what it's doing when you look at the camera itself to see what its view looks like. It's hanging up there on the right. It's just out of the picture. I'll point it out here in a moment. There it is right there. So we're coming up again on that finish area. Again, we're probably not going to do much in there. I'll show you the inside. The assembly area that's on our right is pretty important. This is the kitchen area or the color lab area again. But we really want to be able to see what goes on in this assembly area. That's why our original design had, I think, 4 cameras over that area. Fair amount of obstructions, but you can see, I think, okay from a high enough camera. So this is our hang line we're going to look at here in a moment. Kind of reminds me of Monsters Inc. You don't see a lot of stuff up there, but there's doors and equipment flowing around up there. All of that's going to go away. It'll become a big empty room, and we'll move other things into it. We don't know if the walls will remain or not. That decision hasn't been made. So we'll come up here and we'll hang a right. This is what we call our kitting area on the left. This is, or that's actually the drawer box area immediately on our left. That should have a coverage. I think a single camera above it would give us the information that we need. On the right is the staging for assembly. Again, you know, this is all a pretty important area. Where are they full? Are they keeping them full? Is there product in the swim lanes that are going to feed the beginning of the assembly line here? We'll come down here a little bit and take a little bit of a turn again. There's 2 assembly lines there. Can't really see it, but you can see those people working on the table. Yeah, if the map wasn't in the way. But that's where they begin the assembly, pull the parts out of the carts that are straight ahead of us right there. And we'll wander up the main corridor. You can see there's product staged or components staged on the left there. On the right is just our lunchroom. We have surveillance in there from our existing systems right now. Eventually may want to do something with it. Here on the left is what we call the FE cell. It's where the highest level of craftsmen that we have do their work. It would be good to be able to see this whole area in its entirety, but we don't need to see a lot of details. As you can tell, it's pretty open, pretty easy to see around, so we'll be able to cover that fairly easily and don't necessarily need a high resolution detail. So our maintenance shop on the right. On our left is the corridor we went cross-plant on last time, so we're kind of backtracking a little bit here. But let's take a quick look inside. Oh, I guess I didn't go in there. I thought I went in there. On the right-hand side is our cornerstone cell. Well, let's take a look at the table saw area. Oh, of particular interest there, you might want to stop, back up a little bit, is that overhead ducting. Our main dust collection is around here, and it will potentially get in the way of a lot of stuff. We're on the other side of the NBCs, the nested base routers. There's 4 of them, like I said. We'd want to be able to see these things fairly well, but again, doesn't have to be super high detail. And this is the cornerstone area. There's only usually a few people that work in there. It is obstructed, so we need something in that area to be able to see what's going on. We'll come in here. This is our raw goods warehouse. The sheet stock gets stacked pretty high. You can see that straight ahead of us. It's pretty easy to obstruct things. We don't need to have a ton of visibility, but I think cameras placed in the right areas would be able to see both directions, and potentially, you know, also be able to see the cornerstone cell. So we're pretty much done with this walkthrough. We'll come up here to the door. We'll wave at Debbie, and thank you.